Eugenics has been discussed as early as ancient Greece. Plato and his colleagues expanded on the idea of eugenics and how it would be implemented into society. Although he believed the government should monitor its citizens' reproduction, he knew his ideas would never be implemented because people would not accept these terms willingly. Bringing eugenics into the modern era brought its challenges as well. Sir Francis Galton, an English-born sociologist, psychologist, anthropologist, and eugenist, saw eugenics as a moral philosophy to improve humanity through selective breeding of the most able and healthy individuals. Galton focused on positive eugenics, based off of a reward system where people are rewarded for maintaining a fit and healthy lifestyle, as well as reproducing with others who have done the same, creating a fit and healthy offspring. However, negative eugenics focuses on separating those who are thought to have bad genes, preventing them from reproducing, leading to forced sterilization. Lastly, Charles Davenport, an American scientist known as the father of eugenics, is responsible for taking the idea of eugenics and implementing it on an international scale. Through campaigning and funding from Carnegie Institute, Davenport was able to establish the Carnegie Department of Genetics, as well as the Eugenics Record Office in 1910.
Eugenics is categorized by fit and unfit individuals. People that were deemed to be immoral, inferior, and overall unfit in the eyes of eugenicists were specifically targeted. At first, eugenics tended to be racist, primarily based on nationality and ethnicity, which led to characteristically fit and unfit Europeans. Other individuals that were deemed to be unfit, immoral, and inferior were people suffering from poverty. Poverty was considered to be a genetic inferiority. Therefore, upper-class citizens were favored and essentially safe from the effects of this movement. Lower-class women would undergo forced sterilization, and upper-class women were expected to continue to produce high-functioning children. People that would be categorized as unfit in this would range from individuals with deformities, the disease, the blind, the deaf, people suffering from mental disabilities and deficiency, the insane, criminals, and specifically Greek, Italian, and Eastern European immigrants.
Surprisingly enough, well-named persons supported the practice of eugenics. To begin, the loving Theodore Roosevelt wrote a letter to Charles Davenport explicitly stating that any group of farmers who permitted their best stock not to breed and let all the increase come from the worst stock would be treated as fit inmates for an asylum. Roosevelt encouraged sexual sterilization for criminals and individuals with certain cognitive disabilities. Roosevelt also feared that the U.S. would be committing a race suicide without eugenics. Even statewide, some states passed laws that supported the practice of eugenics. Indiana was the first state that passed a law authorizing the sterilization of institutionalized persons thought to be unfit to reproduce. After the passing of this law, about 2,500 sterilizations were carried out. California was right behind them and allowed for state institutions to sterilize those deemed unfit or feeble-minded.
A lot of the researchers leading the studies on people to decide their so-called fitness were unqualified. For example, city officials frequently used eugenic studies conducted by these corrupt doctors to blame crimes and poverty on the victims. Their excuse was that the cost of caring for such individuals could be saved and given back to the government for things they deemed more important. Eugenicists often blindly followed Gregor Mendel's study on genetics without ever considering the biological consequences of their actions. By creating a group with very low genetic diversity, they would be creating a population that can be wiped out by a single disease. Without a diverse population, the survival rate is very low. In addition, many of the traits eugenicists targeted were not even genetic. Aside from the continuous public backlash and ethical wrong, the science behind the eugenics movement was largely unjustified.
Eugenics was impacted in the way it was researched, treated, and publicized. The treatment was significantly evident in the medical field with the introduction of genetic testing. The collection of data, which was not always scientific, looked for negative traits. Another test that impacted the medical world was the development of psychological experiments designed to measure intelligence. At this point, the elitist mentality took over and used eugenics as a tool to manufacture problems in the U.S. Laws were put in place to mandate sterilization under certain circumstances. These laws led people questioning their moral ground, giving them an excuse to accept this. The impact of this propaganda had in the U.S. spread throughout the world.
The harsh reality is, American eugenics and Nazi Germany had a connection. In 1934's Mein Kampf, Adolf Hitler mentions American eugenics as a concept in securing the idea of a superior Aryan race. In fact, Nazis implemented the law for the prevention of hereditarily diseased offspring, resulting in thousands of forced sterilizations. While both the U.S. and Hitler's intention was to maintain a pure gene pool by focusing on the unborn, Hitler took it to the extreme by narrowing it in on the living as well. Hitler's superior race mania took a more extreme turn than the U.S., however, resulting in a mass genocide that killed millions of people, including those with disabilities, gypsies, European Jews, and more. While the U.S. and Nazi Germany both took part in eugenic experiments and targeted similar people, the U.S. did not go as far as killing. However, these parallels are still disturbing.